$170 million today on compound interest. It sure is a lot, sir. Would you restore the Bank of Canada?
I trust Mark Carney and what he's doing. Thank you.
Mark Carney, working for Goldman Sachs at the time, was advising the Russian government on economic policy. These policies ended in a severe economic collapse, which happened to profit Goldman Sachs tens of millions of dollars, in spite of their involvement in a $1.25 billion bailout of the Russian government. Goldman Sachs appears to have been betting against success. Mark Carney went on from there to head up the Bank of Canada, and then on to the Financial Stability Board, the new global watchdog on the world's biggest banks, placing him in an ideal position to repeat the process on a larger scale. The theme of this conference, Adapting to a New World Order, suggests that it is clear how global commerce and finance will be recognized in the wake of the current crisis. However, the outcome is far from preordained. How we manage the rebalancing of the global economy could profoundly influence how open, equitable, and prosperous the New World Order will be.
Whoever became Prime Minister, I'm sure you know there's a lot of prominent politicians attending Bilderberg meetings and all. Also have heavy ties to Power Corporation. So Justin, would you attend or no? You never really answered. If you would attend the Bilderberg. I've never been invited. No, but would you attend if you were invited? Do you have a card? I'm not convinced about the science on fluoride yet. I'm going to listen to respect Mark Carney, and I'm not going to Bilderberg anytime soon. You made mention of the family living standard. If we restore the Bank of Canada.
Do you support further integration into the North American Union?
I trust the Bank of Canada as it is right now. And I'm not going to Bilderberg anytime.
You said you would go if I answered the question. You said you would go if I answered the question. You said you would go if I answered the question. All right, here's the answer. I happened to be in Europe then on my way to Russia. I was invited to go to Bilderberg by Vernon Jordan, a friend of mine and a genuine hero of the civil rights movement. And to the best of my knowledge, NAFTA was not discussed by anybody in my presence. I was talking to people who happened to be from Europe who did not give a rip about NAFTA. Number one. Number two, I tried to get labor and environmental standards in that agreement, but I couldn't because it was all negotiated when I got there. I was talking to people who happened to be from Europe who did not give a rip about NAFTA because it was all negotiated when I got there.
Martin, find out what else he has to say about Bilderberg. Now, one other interesting thing I noticed about the building, the venue where they were housing this event, is that when I walked in, I noticed a rather large plaque on the wall that was commemorating Heather Reisman. Now, what's interesting about that is that Heather Reisman is on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group. She is actually a very powerful and influential individual. Heather Reisman is the editor of Huffington Post Canada. She's also the president and CEO of Chapters in Indigo Books. Heather has served as the governor on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and she's also the founder of an organization called HESEG, which funds what are known as lone soldiers in the Israeli army. So Heather Reisman has a lot of influence, and it's interesting that someone who's on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group would be housing this venue where Bilderberg member Paul Martin is giving a talk.
Integrate the countries of Canada, US, and Mexico into a North American community similar to the European Union, and considering that the fact that there was no referendum from the people on this agreement, as a former Bilderberg attendee, could you please describe what your intentions were when you signed the SPP on behalf of the Canadian people?
Well, okay. I attended one Bilderberg meeting.
Can you tell us, I'm just curious because every time we ask somebody, it's so secretive. Why does nobody talk about it? It's really, really secret organization. You don't know.
Protesters gather at a British hotel hosting a private meeting of the world's most powerful people. The The protesters were allowed near the perimeter of a hotel where they voiced their anger at the Bilderberg Group meeting's lack of transparency. About 140 high-ranking figures meet at the conference to discuss global policy in meetings which are shrouded in secrecy. There are reports that the CEOs of Apple and Google are at this year's event, along with Britain's finance minister.
Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!
Change has come to America.
A powerful force for change.
With this Trans-Pacific Partnership, we are writing the rules for the global economy.
Is that this is not a free trade agreement in the sense that we are used to. And it is not even being negotiated between sovereign governments. It is actually being negotiated between large corporate entities in various sectors.
And unlike past trade agreements, these standards are actually enforceable.
But the Trans-Pacific Partnership is about more than just eliminating barriers to the movement of goods and services. It will set the rules for the international movement of goods, services, labor, capital, and data for the 21st century.
Expand and support good jobs here at home.
Means more good jobs, more opportunity.
And if we can create exports, it makes it more likely somebody's going to have good work.
It's not for raising wages or creating jobs. It is to protect corporate profits.
And they're jobs that typically pay better than other jobs.
And jobs linked to trade pay better than average wages, often significantly better.
More exports support better and high-paying jobs. These agreements will level the playing field.
Given a level playing field.
To level the playing field for American workers and businesses. And when the playing field is level and the rules are fair, Americans can outcompete anybody in the world.
Canadians can compete with the best in the world and win.
This agreement will level the playing field for American goods and services.
Japan, for example.
Japan.
Some of the largest economies in the world coming together to sign a deal.
The largest economic partnership in the history of the world.
It is important that Canada be part of it. It's an important deal for jobs.
For job creating.
And for Canadian economic growth.
Economic growth.
We are a pro-trade party. We believe that it's good for creating jobs, good for growth in the economy.
It will protect Canadian jobs now and create more for generations to come.
The Liberal Party is a pro-trade party.
Mr. President, over and over again, supporters of these types of trade agreements have told us about how many jobs they would create, how beneficial they would be for the middle class and working class of this country.
And creating another 1.3 million new well-paying jobs by 2020.
But over and over again, virtually everything they told us turned out to be wrong, and they are wrong again in terms of the TPP. In 1993, President Bill Clinton promised that NAFTA would create 1 million American jobs in 5 years.
And create 200,000 jobs in this country by 1995 alone.
Instead, NAFTA has led to the loss of almost 700,000 jobs. In 1999, we were promised that permanent normal trade relations with China would open up the Chinese economy to American-made goods and services. Instead, that trade agreement has cost us some 2.7 million American jobs. And I remember hearing all of the accolades about free trade with China. They all turned out to be wrong. In 2011, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce told us that the South Korean free trade agreement would create some 280,000 jobs. Well, wrong again. Instead, that agreement has led to the loss of some 75,000 jobs. These trade agreements have failed. TPP is based on the same principles. It will be another failure. We should reject it for that reason.
That it's good for creating jobs.
For job creating.
It's good for growth in the economy.
Economic growth.
And if we can create exports, it makes it more likely somebody's going to have good work.